7th Annual Leadership Excellence Award Dinner. I'm sure there are a few of you out there who have been through this a few times already. We've come together here tonight to honor Mr. George Chiala. And George is somewhere. Right There's there. George. Hi, George. So I know George pretty well. There's going to be a few speakers later on that are going to attest to what he's done for the community and all the wonderful things in leadership that he's done, but we're also going to have a little bit of a roast. So I just want to warn everybody. My dad, Joe Aiello, actually a farmer, a vegetable grower in this area. One of the first jobs he had was working for George back in the early 70s. He couldn't make it tonight, but those of you that know my dad know that he's got a pretty good edge to him, and he would have a lot of funny things to say about George. So I called my dad. He's out of town on vacation. I called him and got a few tidbits. So I'm going to proxy for my dad just for a couple lines. Not right now, though. We'll get to that later. Keep y'all in suspense for a while. So anyway, I'd like to welcome some of the dignitaries that are here tonight. We have several of them. Mayor Steve Tate. Or you know, Mayor? Councilman Larry Carr. Hey. There's Larry. Larry, nice to meet you finally, by the way. Councilwoman Marilyn Liebers. Director Dennis Kennedy with the Santa Clara Valley Water District. Quick tidbit here. I have an announcement. This was a late addition to my script, so forgive me. I'm just going to read this verbatim here. Next Wednesday, July 16th at 7 p.m. in the new City Council chamber at the Morgan Hill Civic Center, George will be recognized for his excellence in leadership by the Mayor Morgan Hill and representatives of other elected officials serving Morgan Hill in a brief ceremony at the very beginning of the meeting. So once again, just as you are here tonight, we encourage you to attend and once again celebrate our good friend and our generous philanthropist at that time. So once again, Wednesday, July 16th, 7 p.m., the new City Council chamber at the Morgan Hill Civic Center. So anyway, moving on, because these kinds of events don't just plan and run themselves, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank some of the sponsors that are here tonight and some of the committees as well that help make this thing happen. So first, I'd like to introduce Anna Espinola. Where's Anna? There's Anna right here in front. She is the chairwoman of this event, so she's the one that makes this whole thing go and all the gears turn. So, Anna, thank you. And Anna had several members in a committee that were working with her to make this thing happen tonight. And obviously, so far, it's been a fabulous evening. I anticipate that the rest of this will be equally fabulous. So thanks again, Anna, for all your work, and the committee members as well. For whoever you are out there, thanks a lot for your work in making this happen. You guys have done a truly great job. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't the committee members stand up to be recognized? Those of you that are out there in the crowd. Don't be shy either. So another committee that's part of this, without which these events couldn't exist also, is an honorary committee. And actually, George Chiala selected this committee himself. He asked Mike Cox to be the chairman. And that's Mike right there, wearing a medal as the previous year's winner. So Mike and the committee, if you guys would stand also and take a bow. So this committee worked hand in hand with the event committee, and actually a lot of those folks worked on both committees. So quite a lot of work went into this thing, lots of committees, lots of things going on. So they've been a tremendous asset. We thank you guys as well. And another necessity for events like this, of course, are sponsors. None of this happened without a lot of money being kicked in, or a lot of goods being kicked into this thing. So I want to take a minute real quick to go over the sponsors. So we'll start with our event benefactor, which is Ladera Grill. For those of you who haven't eaten there, please do. It's a good place. Our evening sponsors are Heritage Bank of Commerce and PG&E. The education sponsor for a full-day class is Union Bank. student scholarship sponsor for 2015 is Johnson Lumber and Ace Hardware. And our full day session sponsors, there's a little bit of a list here, is Recology, Rotary Club of Morgan Hill, and Ritsu Company, the Ditmore Family Vineyards, Della Maggiore Stone, Yasugi Farms. Who let those guys in here? And Anaerobe Systems. And if you guys wouldn't mind, when you have a spare moment, look through the program. It details some of the sponsors and all the donors for tonight's event. So appreciate the sponsorship, folks. Thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, and though I've thanked you guys a few times already for coming, thank you again for coming, because events like this don't happen, period, without people coming to them and people like you coming out to enjoy the festivities here. So thank all of you again for coming tonight. It's been great having you. So at this moment, if you guys would take a peek at your chair, if you've got a colored ribbon tied to that chair, you actually win the centerpiece that's at your table. Guys. You actually do get some in return for the money that you spend here tonight, believe it or not.
Where's the ribbon tied to?
Besides, it's just a good feeling.
I think it's on the bottom.
Okay, settle down, everybody. You didn't win the lottery. It's just a centerpiece, for gosh sake. Okay, so now we'll get on to the good part. So, of course, we wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for the fact that we're honoring a very exceptional individual in our community here. So again, tonight we're honoring Mr. George Chiala, senior that is. We're now going to learn of George's generosity, his leadership, and his tremendous contributions to the community. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Lorraine Welk. Lorraine is a 1998 graduate of Leadership Morgan Hill and currently serves as its president. And Lorraine is going to set the stage and the tone for tonight's event. So Lorraine, you're on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you all for attending this evening. We are blessed to be living in Morgan Hill and enjoying the evening with friends in this beautiful location. We are thrilled to be honoring our longtime friend and supporter of all things Morgan Hill, George Chiala. It is, first applause. It is with tremendous pride that Leadership Morgan Hill can state that this nonprofit organization has trained and developed 300 outstanding leaders in our community. All of you are involved in some way or other in the many aspects of life at Morgan Hill. There is no doubt that in every commission, on every nonprofit board or corporation, there is a leadership graduate among you. That is what we do. We make a difference. Because this is our community, and we are extremely proud of it. You, as alumni in the audience, know exactly how committed you are, and that it is largely due to the training and opportunities you received during your 9-month education in the best class ever. Be sure to take your program home and read over our mission and our goals. Our goal values reflect what we do every year, and we've been in business here for 19 years. Our organization decided 7 or 8 years ago that many years we needed to honor a person in our community who goes above and beyond in philanthropy work to give back to Morgan Hill. You see the many recipients who have their medals on tonight. They've received this award. Each of them are our core values and our mission statement. They represent them. At the end of this evening, everyone will know why George Chiala deserves this prestigious award. As this year's president, on behalf of our board of directors, thank you for coming tonight, and you are going to have a wonderful evening. You're going to roast George, you're going to enjoy it all. Thank you so much.
So now, actually, coming to the stage, which is right over here to my right, Mr. Mike Withrow. Please welcome Mike as he's going to perform an original song honoring George. This seems to become a leadership tradition which Mike started when he came up with the idea of musically honoring the honoree. And did anybody know in the crowd that Mike has performed with Eric Clapton and John Lennon? I'm just kidding, he didn't perform with Eric Clapton. But I'll bet he's pretty good. Actually, I've heard he's quite good. So Mike, your turn.
Well, thank you, Jerry. What the hell is your name anyway? Okay, I want to make it, before I start, I want to make it perfectly clear that I will not be doing opera. Okay, thank you. When we got together to organize this party a couple of months ago, I asked George's son, George, what kind of music does your father like? And he said, well, he kind of likes country and western. I think that's what he said, country and western. I said, well, any particular artist? He says, yeah, this guy, that guy, that guy. But George Jr. said to me, if I never hear this song, The Gambler, again, I'll be very happy. So I decided to do this song to the tune of The Gambler. I call it a song for George. Now, if you look in your programs, the song is written in the back there, and I'm going to ask you to join along on the chorus because I'm going to need all the help that I can get. Everybody hear that?
Yeah, I don't know the
On a warm summer's evening, in a spot for celebration, the Morgan Hill community came to honor their old friend. It was good old George Chiala, the mushroom king among us, who gives and gives and donates like the world is gonna end. He thought no one would notice that he'd do it all in quiet, but leadership's been watching, and that's why we're here tonight. So it's time George got it coming. You can bet he got it coming. We're gonna thank him, and we're gonna do it right. All right, here comes the chorus. You know it, right? He does bok choy, ginger, carrots, eggplant, leeks, green onions, fennel, garlic, peppers, olive, strawberries too. But the biggest thing he's known for is a whole big lot of mushrooms. In fact, you might say George is a real fun guy guru. Get it? Fun guy. I made that part up. So like George says when he's asked, I think that I can do that. You can bet that he has done that, and a whole lot of it more. So settle back and listen about a neighbor we will honor, and the best darn thing about it is that he lives just right next door. Now folks round here all know he's a fountainhead of kindness, gives so much to others that his banker goes boo-hoo. He's given Fountain Oaks to St. Catherine's, Louise, and Rosie's for fundraising parties, and that's just to name a few. All right, do it with me. He does bok choy, ginger, carrots, eggplant, leeks, green onions, fennel, garlic, peppers, olive, strawberries too. But the biggest thing he's known for is a whole big lot of mushrooms. In fact, you might say George is a real fun guy guru. So when I'm finished speaking, and we're all finished eating, and the banners are all pulled down, and the chairs are put away, George will always be there, like a rock of Gibraltar, doing good and helping others like he does most every day. All right, let's sell it. He does my George ginger carrots, my English green onions, fennel, garlic, peppers, olive, strawberries too. But the biggest thing he's known for is a whole big lot of mushrooms. In fact, you might say George is a real fun guy guru. He does ginger carrots, olives, leeks, green onions, fennel, garlic, peppers, olive, strawberries too. But the biggest thing he's known for is a whole big lot of mushrooms. In fact, you might say George is a real fun guy guru.
That was awesome. I'll tell you, Clapton and Lennon were missing out. That was really good. Thank you, Mike. That was killer. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Shear. Jennifer was our executive director at the Farm Bureau until last week, actually. And we already miss her terribly. But she came back, though, for this, so that's pretty awesome. So she was our executive director at Farm Bureau for 4 years, almost 5. And so we brought her here to talk a little bit about George's involvement in the ag community. So let's welcome Jennifer to the stand, to the podium.
Great. Well, Jennifer Tate sent out the program and said these people would be speaking. She didn't mention the song or that I'd be right after it. But I will do my best. I certainly consider it a privilege to be here and to honor George. He's a great person, and that's really why we're all here. There's much to say about him. I was told I have 3 minutes, so I will try my hardest to keep it to that. Agriculture is a really dynamic industry. I think people don't necessarily think of it that way. You just think of things growing all the time and maybe are nostalgic about the passing of fruit trees in the area. But one thing that's not lost on George is that agriculture is really dynamic. The family started in Cupertino growing stone fruits, apricots, and things like that. And there's not a whole lot of farming in Mountain View, or excuse me, in Cupertino anymore, and people don't pay for apricots like they used to. So George has moved into other things, and that's one of the things that I've appreciated about him. And one of the things that makes him a leader in the agricultural community is that he's so progressive and is always looking forward to the next thing. I consider George to be a very flexible and open-minded person who's always seeking innovation. He doesn't wait for it to come to him, but he goes out and seeks it and tries to find the next big thing. There was discussion about mushrooms in the song, and I even forget that he does that because he's got so many irons in the fire. And this folklore, anyway, is that they were processing mushrooms and they said, well, why are we buying these from somebody? Let's just do it ourselves. And that's one of the ways that George has really led in the ag community as well, is to look at the changing markets and to say, I can do that, which is kind of George's catchphrase. I think we can do that. So they've diversified and they grow a number of things now on about 1,600 acres. When I first met the Chialas about 5 years ago, I don't know if they were growing green beans at all, but now probably maybe even a third of their acreage is dedicated to that. So as a new market opens up, he just jumps right in there, and that's something that you see throughout the George Chiala Farms operation. They processed, I think, 60 million pounds of produce last year between their 2 facilities. So I don't know really how much that is, but it's a heck of a lot. A semi-truck going down the road can transport up to 50,000 pounds. So they, I don't know what the math is, did 1,000 plus of those. So they do quite a good business and really are a leader in the ag community. They've been honored for their stewardship as well. They were honored by the Monterey National Marine Sanctuary for their conservation in the form of agriculture for irrigation. They do everything on drip tape, and they try to conserve as much as possible to reduce any runoff or any impairments that might come from their agriculture. George is always looking for that. One of the things that's sort of been alluded to is George and Mike's relationship, which I think is a fun one because they're both great men. But also, I said, George, you're doing the bell pepper thing with nitrogen, and why not methane? Methane's already around. You and Mike are figuring out this new thing. And they just scoffed at that. That's like 18th century technology. George is going for the new thing. So they're going to take their bell pepper cores and garlic peels and the things that are just a byproduct, just a waste product, produce gas from Mike's little microbes that eat it, and then they'll burn that to power their facility. So it's really pretty amazing, and it wouldn't have happened without George pushing for that. One of the things that really stands out about George as well is that he's a generous person. And I didn't fact check this, but I'm going to guess that these tables and chairs are the Chialas. So thank you for your generous donation to your ornament. And they're just that way. I mean, you can really call, I don't know how many employees they have, 500 maybe, and you could call any one of them and ask them for a favor and say, I need a half a flat of raspberries, or could I get some fennel bulb? And if they don't even have it, they'll find it. And that's just top to bottom, and that's really a tribute to George's leadership, because they don't need to run it up the flagpole, they just do it without hesitation, they just make it happen, and that's because of his leadership at the top. And that's something I appreciate working for a nonprofit that kind of came and asked for things from time to time, and you never know if it's a hassle for George or not, because he just says, yeah, we can do that. You don't know if it's a big ask or if it's a small task that he's happy to do, but he's always happy to do it. George is a really humble person as well, so that's why I'm glad that we're here, and I'm glad that he was honored at this time rather than waiting until he retires, since that is the non-existent thing in agriculture. I said that I was coming here this evening, I told a friend, and she said, oh, is he retiring? I said, you obviously don't work in the industry. They don't retire. So sorry, George, Tim. But he's going to be around, and I know especially with the tenacity that George Sr. has, he's going to continue to be involved, and we're all grateful for that in the ag community. So I'm happy to be here and say these few remarks, George, but really you've made quite an impression on me and on those around you, and we're all here to honor you, not just for the things that you've done, but because you're a great man. Thank you.
I knew these tables and chairs looked familiar. I think I've seen them at every single event I've been to in the past 10 years, probably.
Before more busy.
Very true, though. No truer words were spoken about George. So next up, want to talk a little bit about George's benefit and contribution to our community in general, not just the agricultural community. So here to tell us a little bit about that is Michelle Averill. She nearby somewhere. There she is, right front and center, of course. So Michelle was the Chief Executive Officer and Vice President of Development at the St. Louis Hospital Foundation until she left to become the Chief Executive Officer of the Community Chapter of the American Red Cross. So please welcome Michelle to come up and say a few words.
Well, first I would like to mention that Champ is sorry he couldn't be here tonight. However, he did appreciate having his photo on the invitation with George. I'd also like to say what an honor it is to be here as we celebrate George. In celebrating George, I think it is also important that we recognize Alice. Without Alice's backing, George would not have had the time or support necessary to have carried out all the amazing work he has done in the community. So cheers to you too, Alice. Yes. George and I met nearly 10 years ago during a transitional time for the foundation at St. Louis Regional Hospital. George is an eternal optimist. He has an uncanny ability to see the good in everyone and everything. He didn't jump ship when the waves got rough, but continued his unwavering support of the hospital. And personally, he encouraged me every step of the way. George is always the first person to support a cause or need or someone in their time of need and helps forge solutions to challenges. He is a solution visionary. Another beautiful part of George is that he is a dreamer. When he shares a new idea or plan and expresses his excitement for the project, you can't help but jump on board and support him. no matter how crazy the idea may seem at the time. You just want to see his vision come to fruition. One of my favorite quotes of George's is, "They may say no right now, but tomorrow's a new day, and that no may turn into a maybe. So don't give up and keep trying." Throughout his life, George has given selflessly of his time, energy, and resources, and served on countless committees and boards, always wanting to make a difference. His generosity and dedication are beyond words, and done in such a way that he expects nothing in return. His heart has enormous capacity, and many have been the fortunate recipients of his kindness and generosity. Some examples of the boards and committees he has served on are working with Sister Pat on budgeting and the board at the Loving and Learning Center from the inception of the center to the end of his term on the board. Creating the California Youth Soccer Complex field, where thousands of children have had the opportunity to enjoy playing soccer. He was a member of the Santa Clara County Land Use Committee, where he served on the planning task force to build the St. Louis Hospital in Morgan Hill. He also created an amnesty program at George Chiala Farms, documenting workers, allowing them to become citizens. He served on St. Catherine's School Board for 4 years and the committee for the sometimes controversial parish car raffle for 22 years. They were able to raise the funding necessary to build a daycare and a kindergarten. South County Catholic High School, where he's spearheading the fundraising effort to build a Catholic high school, wanting to make sure his grandchildren have the opportunity to attend school there. St. Louis Regional Hospital and O'Connor boards, and the Foundation Board, where he found out there are no term limits, and once you are the board chair, you remain the board chair indefinitely. George, you are one of the most extraordinary people I have ever known. I feel truly lucky to be a part of your life, and I appreciate all the life lessons you've instilled in me. You have taught me to look at any situation and not take it for face value, but to look for the good in everything, because if you take the time and look hard enough, it is there. You are willing to take risks on people in order to promote their success and continue building on their confidence every step of the way. Thank you for taking risks. Thank you for taking risks with me, and in the process becoming one of my best friends and truly my mentor along the way. I admire you more than I can say. So in honoring George, I think each of us should follow his lead. Consider how each of us can make a difference in our communities. Find an organization or cause that motivates or inspires us and support them. It is these acts of contribution, big or small, that can change lives and improve communities. The next time you are given the opportunity to give back to your community, picture George on your shoulder and just say yes. And remember, they may say no right now, but tomorrow is a new day, and that no may turn into a maybe. So don't give up and keep trying. And if you're looking for a worthy cause to support, may I suggest the Red Cross?
Way to get the plug in, Michelle. That was awesome. Awesome. So Michelle touched a little bit on Alice a little at the beginning there. So that kind of segues into what my dad wanted me to say. It was a little harsher than how Michelle put it. He basically said George would be homeless if it wasn't for Alice. I don't know, that seems a little mean, but it is kind of funny. So anyway, that's it. That's all I'm going to say about my dad. That's he's really a good guy, I promise. In fact, he got one of his very first jobs, his very first farm job here in Morgan Hill in the early 70s with George. He worked for George and George's dad, actually. So one of the funny things that he always tells me is how George would tell him to come and do something, he'd start doing it. 2 minutes later, the old man would come by and say, "What are you doing that for?" Well, George told me, "I don't care what he told you to do this." Okay. So he'd start doing that, and George would come by 5 minutes later, "What are you doing? I told you to do this. Why are you doing?" So anyway, that's how we Italian farmers work. It's part of the deal. So anyway, we're going to pick up the pace and pick up the grit a little bit here. So the four children who I had the pleasure of growing up with, I mean, especially George Jr. and Timmy, but Nicole and Christy too, I believe. All four of them are going to come up and say a few words. So things now are going to get a little hotter and turn the heat up a little bit, at least I hope. So I'd like to invite the kids up now to say a few words.
All right, thank you, Pete. On behalf of the Chiala family, I want to thank everyone that came out tonight to honor our father. We really appreciate seeing everyone out here. And when the Tates mentioned that they want the children to say something tonight, I, being the self-proclaimed spokesperson of the Chiala family, decided that I should be the person up there. Well, then Jennifer started laying down some of the ground rules, saying I had to be respectful, I couldn't talk about myself, and no off-color jokes. So then I said I wouldn't have much to talk. So I decided to spread the wealth with my siblings, Christy, Cole, and George. And they're going to come up and talk to, share some stories about my father and their memories about our father. And as you listen to these stories, you're going to start picking up a common theme. The common theme is my dad was not known for his big emotional speeches to us. He was known for his little one-liners, his little proverbs, his little Georgisms. So you'll start hearing them in the speeches, and you already heard one from Michelle. But the thing about the Georgisms, all right, when you find yourself in tough situations or tough business decisions, even though they seemed a little cheesy and hokey at the time, you hear them echoing in your brain, and they actually most of the time led you right down the right path. So I want to share some of my favorite Georgisms. The first one that we hear all the time is you're the captain of your own ship. No matter what you do, no matter the trouble I got in, he said you're the captain of your own ship. He would also say, the early bird got the worm, but the second mouse got the cheese. And then this one, I still think about it quite a bit, is you can't make chicken soup out of chicken poop. So you guys can take that and apply it to your own life in whatever way you want. But anyways, at this time I want to invite my sister Christy Becerra to come up and say a few words.
It's hard to follow a guy so full of chicken soup. But chicken soup. I'll do my best. I'm going to talk a little bit about our family. My grandfather, Vito Chiala, used to tell my dad, surround yourself with people that are better than you and always pay your own way. Vito was a strong influence on my dad and the leader he is today. My grandfather came to the United States penniless at the age of 9, and when his brother was killed at work, found himself alone in this country. Vito learned that with hard work and always striving to surround yourself with people that are better, which I feel that he meant smarter, stronger, successful, and never give up on your goals was the key to success. My dad, George, works very hard. He surrounds himself with great people, and I think that's evidence of tonight with all you wonderful people coming out to support him. And he never gives up on his goals. My dad does not go into situations seeking the leadership role, but given his drive, his compassion, and his tireless energy, people are eager to follow him. He is truly a leader that inspires people through his actions and not through his words. Growing up, my dad would repeat Vito's saying to us, surround yourself with people that are better than you and always pay your own way. But he would add, and when you can, pay for them too. With that, I'd like to introduce my sister, Nicole. So, as most of all of you know here, my father had a horrible accident about 2 winters ago where he broke his leg and his knee. For me, there was a silver lining to this accident. For the first time in my father's life and my life with my father, he was trapped. He couldn't run off to a committee or a meeting or to change a pipe. He couldn't run at all. One night in the rehab facility, my father, George Chiala, the philosophy major, returned, and we discussed poetry. Poems that I'd heard my entire life but had never really considered until that evening. So for my Georgism, I'd like to read a few verses of one of his favorite poems. I decided to read the author's original work versus his more illustrative version. But here it is. The poem is called "'Tis the Set of the Sail" by Ella Wheeler Wilkins in 1916. One ship sails east and the other west by the same south wind that blow. 'Tis the set of the sail and not the gales that tells the way we go. Like the wind of the sea and the waves of time as we journey along through life, 'tis the set of the soul that determines the goal and not the calm or the strife. Our family, my parents fostered an environment of love. They gave us the drive and the support that we needed to succeed. They allow us to set our own paths and determine our own destinies. It's okay to fail, as long as we just kept trying. They gave us the confidence to set our own goals, and no matter what we do, and no matter what way the wind blows. Thank you. I love you, Mom and Dad.
So, I was asked to talk a little bit about George and his business leadership. So, my Georgism is, what's one more time? And so, there's a story behind this. So, this is about 4 years ago. I'm sitting at my desk, just typing away, what I do most days. My dad walks in and sits down right in front of me. And he just doesn't say anything. And he just sits there and he looks at me, and so I'm looking up, and he wants to talk to me about something. Earlier that day, a rancher called him on the phone. This was an older gentleman who ran into some financial trouble. He did not have the liquidity to feed his herd or maintain his debt obligation. He was fearful that he was going to lose his herd and his home ranch, which was been in his family for many generations. I knew exactly where this conversation was going. My dad decided to loan him money before he even walked in the door. You gotta understand, for me, this stresses me out. It totally stresses me out. So, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Oh, I still did that right now. So, I'm sorry, let me just start. My dad decided to loan him money before he even walked aboard. This type of deal, again, stresses me out, makes me lose my page on the page. So, for me, I like things really well defined. I like spreadsheets, I like schedules, and you can tell this wasn't going that direction. So, my stomach kind of felt like I just ate warm sushi from a gas station. So with that said, I felt it was necessary to start asking a couple questions. And if you've never had a long conversation with my dad, he has basically 2 types of conversations. The first being where he's very engaged and he wants feedback and he wants to know what you think. The second
kind of conversation is not so much. But I couldn't back on this, so I started asking questions. Did the rancher have any collateral to offer? My dad's like, yeah, he has 80 head of cattle and a Caterpillar tractor. I'm all great. So my thoughts immediately went to the Caterpillar tractor. New Caterpillar tractors are very expensive and very marketable. However, given that the rancher had liquidity issues, I'm guessing that this one wasn't a new, it was a more vintage model. So I asked my dad, does it have a steering wheel or knobs? Just a little sidebar, growing up, the tractors had metal seats that got red hot with no steering wheel, and they had 3 buttons, so under my breath, or not, I was just thinking, and so I said, well, maybe if the deal goes south, we could recycle the tractor. George quickly responds and says, we're not recycling the tractor. As a sidebar, if you want to get under my dad's collar, there's 2 easy ways of doing it. First, offer to recycle his equipment. It drives him crazy. The second one we found out is when we suggested that the general manager at his mushroom farm needed help and Timmy should go over and consult. So I could see the frustration coming popping over the fence, and so you know what, I decided to let's talk about these cows a little bit. So I asked them, okay, the rancher doesn't have money to feed the cows. Are they still alive? How skinny are they? Do people buy skinny cows? What are we going to do with cows? Feed them bell peppers? If cows eat too many bell peppers, do they explode? I can tell at this point, no more cow questions. So, I turned to my dad in a serious face. I said, you know, George, you're an incredible businessman, but this doesn't seem like a good deal for you. And my dad just sits and looks at me and smiles like he always does when I ask stupid questions. And he says, George, what's one more time? And so, a few months later, Tim, George, and I were in town, and we ran into the rancher. The rancher walked up to George, said hello, shook his hand, and you could tell right there that he was my dad's friend for life, and he'll do anything for him. Like a true leader, George's belief in that rancher reaffirmed the rancher's belief in himself. My dad's compassion for others and his ability to instill confidence is a testament to his business leadership. This example, like many others mentioned tonight, illustrate why George is deserving of this accolade. And we're very proud of you, George. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And by the way, later, I got a great opportunity on some cows. No, I'm gonna get the tractor. They're great pets and they're great to talk to. So I got to double dip tonight. I got to come back up here. I know you guys are excited about this. So anyways, as I prepared for this evening and thought about what to talk about, I spent a lot of time looking at the brochure, and I started thinking about everything my father's accomplished over his life, and he would be the first to admit that he couldn't have done it alone. He had a great support group. So this time, I would like to recognize someone very special in his life. I would like to recognize Champ, his dog. He couldn't be here tonight, but I know he's very proud of everything my dad has accomplished. And when my dad comes home tonight, he'll be there wagging his tail. So from Champ, we're very proud of you. Now you guys know what I'm talking about. We're talking about his wife for almost 50 years, our mother, Alice Chiala. encouraged and supported our father through all three of his aspects of his life: his business, his social responsibility, and his family. My dad's big heart, intelligent, and want to improve our lives and every life around him is what drove the dream. But my mom's hard work and organization is what made the dream a reality. So thank you, Mom, for everything you've done. Dad, congratulations. And thank you all for coming out tonight.
So you can see that the Chiala children were molded very well in the likeness of their parents. A good bit of edge to it, not too rough, but a good bit of edge to it. And talking about George Jr. and his stress level, let me just give you all some advice. If you're sending George Jr. a load of peppers, make sure there's no glass or foreign material in it. And if there is glass or foreign material in it, don't put him on the phone with the grower who sent it to him. It doesn't turn out too well. But of course, I wouldn't expect that it would after all. So, but anyway, now we're actually going to bring up Lorraine again. And Lorraine is going to, I believe, call some of the past winners up with her as well. Is that correct? Okay. All right.
All the past winners, they're all here. I'd like to bring up the 2003 recipient, Roger Knopf. Yay, Roger. 2004, George and Jean, and Gary is not here, but the Guillermo boys. 2005, Mike Rubino. 2007 is Dennis Kennedy. 2008, Sherry Hemingway. 2011, Mike Johnson. 2012, Rosie Bergen. And last year's recipient, 2013, Mike Cox. And now it's time for this year's honoree. I want to present the Medal of Honor to George Chiala, the 2014 winner.
Better be good jokes.
That's your husband.
Wow!
If you want me to.
I just have to say, wow, I'm overwhelmed. Rob, thank you too. I was in therapy yesterday and he was teaching me how to do the power walk and the power stand and to go up steps. But the step wasn't this big, Rob. Thank you for all your help. I'm just overwhelmed. I had a speech planned. In my speech, I wanted to thank everybody that's already been thanked, and especially my wife, Alice. Okay. Mike Cox once put it, she's the power. And she truly is. I also wanted to, again, I can throw this speech out because of what my kids have already said, what the other leaders have said. Michelle, Jennifer, thank you. Okay. Again, I'm overwhelmed. I love this community. It's a community of sharing and a community of consideration for others. And I'm really proud to be able to receive this award. I would like to take a minute to acknowledge a few people that were sitting at my table. Sister Chiala, Sister Mary Hale with St. Louis Hospital, and the Daughters of Charity. Thank you. I want to acknowledge Father Mark Arzin, and I see now Monsignor, I think he's back there.
Yes, right there.
Wow. Monsignor Gene O'Donnell. These two men are instrumental in the development of the new co-ed Catholic college prep high school. Their inspiration that has been able to move me and create a vision that we have. Thank you. Sister Chiala, thank you. Sister Mary Hale. Okay, learned a lot from both of you. I already thanked my wife Alice. My speech is all messed up.
Get the organizer.
But I did say she's always supportive. Most of the time, huh? I'd like to thank my family, my children, my brothers and sisters. We serve this community together. Thanks, all of you. And these thank yous have already been made, but I'd like to acknowledge Mike and Mary Cox and Anna and the Morgan Hill Leadership Honorary Committee for their very hard work in putting together this lovely evening. And what really made it happen, and who really made it happen. Thank you, Ronnie Joe, and Jesse Castillo for this beautiful setting. And the opera music was a surprise to me. It was certainly appreciated and very beautiful. So thank you. I would like to especially thank all of you for attending this really special event. I'm accepting this honor on behalf of all of you. Thank you. In closing, Father, 4 minutes?
I'll start timing.
In closing, I'd like to tell you a little story. When I was about 8 years old, my father was taking me to school in Cupertino. We lived in Cupertino at that time. I had made my lunch and had packed a candy bar in my lunch. At that time, we didn't have many candy bars. My mother didn't allow it. But I wanted to show my dad that I had a candy bar. My father, and all of us kids know it, had a very serious look when he looked at us. My father looked at me. He didn't take the candy bar away. He said, "Don't eat that candy bar unless you share it with everyone, or everybody has a candy bar." My father was an orphan. I'm sure he was in a situation in his younger life when someone had something as simple as a candy bar and he didn't. I believe this was a lesson in life, to be considerate of others and share what we have. Tonight, I'd like to be considerate of you. I brought you all a very special candy bar. These candy bars used to be handed out to you, was sent over to me from the Hershey Candy Company overnight just for this occasion. So George and Christy and tropical, if you can get those candy bars and enjoy them. I want to share them with all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, thank you very much. So if we could have a round of applause to pump up the performers. Thank you.
So, all right, well, look now. Quella fiamma che m'accende, piace tanto la mamma mia, piace tanto la mamma mia, che giammai si estinguerò. Piace tanto la mamma mia che giammai si estinguerò, che giammai si estinguerò. Di silvato voi mi rendeva l'ira del mio bel sole tralucerà, non volei né voler giammai potrò, né voler giammai potrò, né voler giammai potrò. Mai potrà quella fiamma che m'accende, piace tanto l'alma mia,
into the field.